Hey guys, just to let you know before the video starts, tonight at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be hosting a live stream with Crazy Joe of Mega Podtastic and potentially others, and we will be doing a live review of the second season of Star Trek Lower Decks. If you want to come on by, then go ahead and do so. I will put a link to the live stream down below in the description, so you can click on that and go set the reminder for that start time. And if you don't see this until after the stream is over, well then I guess you'll be watching the archive of that. So guys, that's all I have to say for this announcement. So without further delay, let's just get right into the video, shall we? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metropolis Radio. Today we are taking a look at this article here, why Netflix doesn't really care if its movies are good. Netflix has a lot of bad original movies, but quality isn't an issue for a platform that favors quantity. Here's why the model works so well. We will get to that last point by the end of this video, just trust me on that. Even if the majority of its original films are of lackluster quality, Netflix is still the reigning streaming service king. In fact, part of the platform's success can be attributed to the exact strategy of manufacturing as much content as possible, regardless of quality. It's why Netflix isn't as concerned with its movies being good so much as they're present and plentiful. The current streaming service wars dictate that Netflix can no longer rely on licensed material in order to woo subscribers. Luckily for the original streamer, Netflix has been around long enough to slowly introduce its own original movies and television shows and keep the majority of its subscribers that signed on years ago. That ability to mold and adapt to a new entertainment market is why the service is still the most recognizable household name. Well, it's probably the most recognizable household name, like they said, because they were one of the first on the market. In fact, I remember a time when you had to be a DVD subscriber in order to access the streaming library. And I remember you had to get you actually had to get a disc. Specifically for your Wii, your Xbox 360, or your PS3 to put the app on your game console. Because this was before the Roku and the Fire TV stick thingamajig where you can just download it over the internet. No. You had to actually get an installation disc that you got to keep. You never got to send back. I would show you guys video of my Wii disc that I got, but I lost it in a box when I moved many years ago, unfortunately. But where was I before I tangent? Oh, here we go. Why the service is still the most recognizable household name, even in the midst of intense competition. However, Netflix doesn't have the advantage of relying on as many pre-existing popular IPs as, say, Disney Plus or DCEU Home HBO Max, and must consistently create new content in the hopes of making a hit. Yes, throwing shit against the wall and hoping something sticks. Sometimes it works, but a lot of times it can backfire depending on how much money you're spending on that strategy. As a result, viewers see a lot more of the Netflix original tags when browsing the service than in the past. That's also because Netflix intentionally advertises its own branded content more than suggested third-party licensed material. While the COVID-19 pandemic seemed to at least temporarily curtail film and television production, Netflix is making up for any lost time by releasing at least one new movie every week, an ambitious plan that proves the company shows no signs of slowing down its growth. In addition, the streamer has also created its own marketing event in the form of Tudum in order to promote its growing supply of original IPs. All this amounts to an ever-growing library of Netflix material that's meant to both maintain existing subscribers and bring in new ones. Yes, but how long does Netflix think that this is realistically going to last? Netflix has been building its reputation as a formidable awards machine, having produced and distributed an impressive number of critically acclaimed films and series. For every The Irishman or Roma, however, there is a crop of generic flat action movies such as the critically derided The Last Days of American Crime, or at least 5 low-effort Adam Sandler vehicles like Murder Mystery. Even the streaming platform's efforts to woo the awards crowd doesn't always work out successfully, as the decried Hillbilly Elegy or the Starling provide evidence for. Simply and frankly put, Netflix's mediocre content outweighs its notable selections. Looking at the platform's 2021 releases alone proves that most of the original programming ranges from forgettable and bland to downright awful. The fact that the streamer is following up on its ambitious plan to release a movie literally every week of the year makes the sheer volume of misfires less surprising. A small handful of recent Netflix original films are high-budget tentpole projects such as Army of the Dead and the upcoming Dwayne Johnson vehicle Red Notice. But there are significantly more unnotable titles that inevitably get lost in the algorithm. I always feel like somebody's watching me. However, Netflix's bad movies don't always end up doomed to the digital ether. In fact, a sizable margin of these critical duds actually become genuine hits for the streaming service. The top 10 most watched lists on Netflix fluctuates on a daily basis, but even the worst movie has a chance to land a spot there, especially since Netflix's algorithm pushes its own original content over licensed material. Yeah, just take a look at, any of the Adam Sandler movies that release, like the Ridiculous Six. Recently, the completely unnecessary He's All That, a gender swap remake of the 1999 romantic comedy, I will agree. Even though I've never seen it, why did you do a gender swap remake of She's All That? It didn't work when they did it for Overboard. Why would they think it would work here? But, whatever. Became the #1 most watched feature on the service in its first week of release. That really says a lot about Netflix's subscriber base if they have nothing better to do than to watch a gender swap remake of She's All That. Or another theory is that like 50 to 75% of people who watched it just watched it. And that's probably how they got the numbers. And personally, I never understood the concept of hate watching, because they're just going to make more of the shit to piss you off because they know you're going to watch it no matter what now, you dumbasses. The Jason Momoa-headed Sweet Girl, another critical dud, jumped to the top spot in its first day on the service. These numbers don't necessarily mean that audiences are sitting through these movies from beginning to end either. This is the important part. Netflix counts at least 2 minutes of watch time towards the viewership metrics, enough to indicate, quote, the choice was intentional, according to the streamer. That means that the average curious subscriber who chooses to abort watching a movie all the way through will still count towards the overall number of views. And this is where I'm going to bring it back to the Mark Twain quote. There are 3 types of lies: lies, damned lies, and statistics. See, I want to know exactly how many people watched the movie all the way to the end. And, I know that Netflix has this technology because on YouTube, I even have access to this. If enough people watch my videos or there's enough watch time in there, for those of you that don't have a YouTube channel, you're not going to know about this, but I can see how many viewers dropped out at a certain time, or how many, and exactly like a percentage of like how many actually made it to the end. A good best guess, if you will. So how many of these movies are getting watched to the end? Netflix knows these numbers. They're just choosing not to release them because they don't want to admit that they're making more crap than they probably should. But where was I before I got off on that tangent? This wasn't always the case. Netflix used to label movies as watched if users got through at least 70% of the runtime. I can live with that. If they got through at least 70% of the movie, then yeah, they pretty much watched it almost close to the end and bounced for whatever reason. See, that metric I can live with, but 2 fucking minutes, especially on a movie that could be 2.5 to 3 hours long, that shit, it's not even 1 fucking percent of the movie. In fact, I'm pulling up my calculator right now. I know, guys, you can't see it, but let's say, how long was the Irishman? Was that 3.5 hours? So 3.5 hours would be 210 minutes. So let's divide the 2 by 210, and yeah, we only get, what is that? 10, we only get 9.5 thousandths of a percent of the total runtime. They will consider that a view for the Irishman. Again, where was I? As was the case when Bird Box became a sensation in 2018. However, the current data crunching system is supposed to more accurately reflect an individual subscriber's overall interest in the chosen content and thus more efficiently feed the algorithm, or they're using these numbers to essentially cook the books with regards to ratings. I'm not talking financial. I am not trying to imply that they are committing a federal crime, but I think that they want to fluff up their viewership numbers to look good for investors, if you know what I mean. Don't care anymore. Don't care anymore. All this means that Netflix subscribers will quote-unquote watch an original movie if the algorithm pushes it enough. It's a far cry away from the days when buying a movie theater ticket to a potentially bad movie was a financial risk for both the consumer and the studio. Inferior content isn't enough to make people unsubscribe to Netflix, so poor quality is less of a hazard than it is for major theatrical releases that rely on box office performance. On the contrary, Netflix only has more subscribers to gain from the more popular original releases, and simple math dictates that the more original content is available, the more people will end up checking out new releases. This model explains why Netflix is now releasing movies on a weekly basis, a classic case of favoring quantity over quality. It also means that there is an oversaturation of content on the service, though surely that won't make an impact on the subscribers' willingness to continue to pay or Netflix's rapid-paced distribution strategies. It just means that there is a far higher chance that the newest movie that pops up on the home screen will be a disappointing or even miserable watch. But a watch is a watch, and that's the most important factor for Netflix's streaming war campaign. However, there is a bright side to the seemingly cynical distribution method. The sheer volume of Netflix content being produced means that there are more opportunities for mid-budget projects that a Hollywood studio normally wouldn't greenlight. Well, they would have greenlit it about 30 years ago. It's only been recent that they won't greenlight a middle market movie. It allows the service to be more adventurous in the kind of projects it approves, taking risks on provocative or unusual material. But again, that's also a double-edged sword, because for every Irishman, you could have another Cutie situation where don't even get me started, and I am not going down that fucking rabbit hole today. Although the streamer's approach yields plenty of misfires, Netflix's strategy can also unearth some hidden gems. And they have a point with this ending here. Netflix's strategy can also unearth some hidden gems. The problem is how much bullshit are you going to have to sift through? You know, it's like if you tap a maple tree for maple syrup. Okay, you can fill an entire 5-pound bucket, but when you actually boil it and distill it down to the actual syrup, you're only going to get maybe 10%. So how many people are going to just throw their hands up and go, you know what? It's really not worth sifting through this, 4.75% pounds of crap just to get a handful of syrup. And this is one of Netflix's major problems, and they make the claim up here, I told you we would get to it. Here's why the model works so well. I would argue that the model is going to backfire because all of these movies cost money. And if they keep making more and more, if they keep pump and dumping more and more crap that nobody wants and nobody watches, how many people are just going to swear off the service entirely? So this quantity over quality may work in the short term. It could really, really hamper you in the long term because there's not a guarantee that Netflix is going to remain the king of the mountain. And guys, that's pretty much all I've got for you right now. If you stuck around this long, thanks so much for doing so. And if you've been following me long enough, you know I am terrible at ending these videos. Oh, and remember, there is a live stream tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over on the YouTube channel where we will be discussing, we will be reviewing the second season of Lower Decks. There is a link in the description to that. And guys, I will just see you guys next time.